Hello, everybody. Welcome to International Ball. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with you with my co-host Shona Thurburn, former Canadian national team, two-time Olympian, who's joined me here to talk about Olympics 2021 FIBA Women's Action. We are talking about national team ball in action right here on International Ball. Welcome, Shona. How are you?
I'm doing good. Been spending a lot of time on the sofa watching the Olympics. So not very productive, but I'm enjoying myself.
Well, it's summertime, so enjoy it while you can before you get to work in fall.
True, very true.
Uh, Shauna, why don't you, I guess, tell us a little bit about the games that's been played, and why don't we start with Australia? I believe, yes, Australia and Belgium.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that game in its entirety live. Basketball fans would probably say that it was a big upset because Belgium ended up coming out beating Australia. It was a close game. It was back and forth for three quarters, and then really the fourth quarter, Belgium just, they had more left in the tank, and Australia didn't have any answers. And that 15 points isn't really reflective of the first 30 minutes. And, here you see Emma Meesman, was just absolutely superb. I've said from the beginning, she's one of the best players in the world. And I think her Olympic debut for Belgium sort of was significant. Excuse me there. 32 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. She absolutely did everything that they needed for her to do. So huge win. It really is. It's an enormous win for Basketball Belgium and their country and them. Australia, they've had a little bit of drama, I guess you could say, leading up to the Olympics. Another one of the best players in the world right now, Liz Cambage, decided, she wasn't going to go for mental health reasons. So, disappointing to not have her. But I think Australia is going to bounce back. They're coached well. But I said before, I think Belgium is a team who's capable of medaling at this Olympics, and they proved it on game day one.
Brilliant. Moving on to the second game of the action here, which was Canada, Serbia. I know you're a former national team player. You spend a great deal of time. You represent the country 2 times in the Olympics, and there you go, proudly flashing the Canada T-shirt.
Yep.
What was that game?
So yeah, again, it was a game that I made sure was in front of the TV for live. I think it was a sloppy game from both sides to begin with, kind of all game as well, which isn't too abnormal. I mean, this is the Olympics. Trust me, there's a lot of nerves going on and all of that. But basically it was some big plays in the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter that Serbia had, especially by Ana Dabovic. Those who watched the game will know, money time player. I mean, she had a big three. She had, a highlight reel assist, and then another big three in the last couple of minutes. And Canada really had no answers. They did have the ball, sideline out of bounds, 13 seconds, maybe a little bit more. They needed to go for a three. Serbia was smart. They fouled. So, Canada had to go to the free throw line, makes the first, missed the second intentionally because you have to try and, tie and whatnot. You don't want to be down one. But Serbia came up with the ball and they had a wide open layup because everyone was offensive rebounding. So Canada, ends up losing by 4. So I don't think it's a shock loss. I think it's a disappointing loss for Canada. Naira Fields, I would say, is definitely someone who, is a big positive. The way that she played, she had 19 points. Shea Colley had 12 points in 13 minutes. She did go down in the first half with an apparent shoulder injury. I have been told that, she's sore, but it's the Olympics. She's definitely going to try and play and see how she feels. The Miranda Ayam, who was our flag bearer during the opening ceremonies, she's celebrating. That was after Kia Nurse hit a big 3. So there are some definite positives. It's only a 4-point loss. They need to win tomorrow. It's tomorrow for me. I think the game starts at 10 p.m. your time or something like that. No, 9 p.m. Sorry. But it's at 3 a.m. my time. They have a big game. They have to beat Korea, plain and simple. If they lose Korea, they're putting their fate in other people's hands. And, it's not what you need to do at a tournament at an Olympics.
Indeed. Moving on, we've got Puerto Rico versus China. How was that game? I guess China has been as strong as they can be, I guess, for the start.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed with China. Haven't seen, a whole lot of them recently. Obviously, COVID, we had nothing last year. So I only saw a few of their games a year before. And, they were good. They had a decent run, top 5 finish at the World Cup back in 2018. And they were a young team then. And some of those young players, now they're 22 years old. And they're talented. They're Puerto Rico. I'm not too surprised about the score for them, but China scoring 97 points. You have to be talented and skilled to score 97 points, no matter who you're playing. And I think that's a big positive for China. Li, she had 21 points, 12 rebounds. She's one of those 22-year-olds, big post player. So upside for China is I think they're very good, and I think they're only going to get better. If it's not this Olympics, I wouldn't be surprised, how they do at, next year's World Cup and then the Olympics from here, because we'll see a lot of the same players. So I was really, really impressed with them. One little thing I would like to say is for Puerto Rico, you saw Solomon. I forget which number she is now. Sorry. She tore her ACL in the FIBA Olympic qualifiers. So back in 2020, in February, and I was calling the game for FIBA, commentating, and your heart just, you knew when she went down that it was serious. It was, and then the next day we find out it was an ACL. There's not a lot of positives that have come out from this pandemic and COVID, but the fact for her that the Olympics got pushed back 1 year, you get to see her suit up and represent her country. I mean, this is the first Olympics that Puerto Rico has ever been at for women's basketball. So I'm incredibly happy for her and a small positive out of this last crazy year and a bit that we've experienced.
Of course, we wish her a speedy recovery, but we're going to take a quick break. Please join us on our social media pages right here on this reel, and then we'll be right back with Shona Thurburn here as we continue talking about Olympics 2021 in Japan. Okay, welcome back. If you just joined us, I have the great pleasure of having Shona Thurburn here, who's two-time Olympian, FIBA commentary, and currently coaching professionally in France. Shona, why don't we just take us to the next game here, which I guess is Japan and France. You should be very well versed with the French players coaching there professionally in France.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously, that was another game that I made sure I wasn't quite up for it, but I did watch it around 6 in the morning because it started at 3 here. I talked about Belgium and I said Japan can be a dark horse for me and also make the podium. And I think they really proved it with a 4-point win over France, 74-70. And I watched the post-game press conference with their coach, and just this sigh of relief that came out of the Japanese coach, Tom. He knew the importance of this game and how badly getting that first win, especially over. I mean, France is ranked 5th in the world. Japan's only 10th in the world, and getting that first ever Olympic win for Japan in women's basketball, I think it was incredible. And the way that they play and the speed and the aggressiveness, they wanted it. And in my opinion, when it came down to the big moments, they wanted it more than France. And like you said, I mean, I've been in France the last 10 years almost. So, I know French basketball and I know these players and I know how talented they are. But at the end of the day, Japan just wanted it more. And that's what, I mean, this is the Olympics. You can't have any regrets, Sandrine Gruda, she was absolutely superb. No surprise, 18 points, 9 rebounds for her. You kind of expect those big performances by Sandrine Gruda for France, but who else is going to step up? Who else is going to lead them? Because again, they need to win. They need to win at least one game to give themselves a possibility of moving out of group play. And for Japan, for example, I mean, you kind of looking at the statistics at the end of the game, I think they had 10 players score. So out of 12, to have that kind of a contribution, and no one scored 20 points for them. It was, 10, 11, 12, 8. So just such a team contribution. And I think that's why they won.
That kind of fascinates me. I mean, France is such a powerhouse in basketball, but Japan having the luxury of playing at home in Olympics. But again, how's that a luxury when there's no spectators, no fans, but yet coming up with the win? So
yeah.
I think it goes to tell you the determination of those ladies that came to the game. They virtually brought it to win. So
absolutely.
So let's talk about the next game. I guess U.S. versus Nigeria. You have some very good experience in this arena here versus U.S. being from the Americas. What was your take with the U.S. Nigeria game?
I was not surprised that they were pushed to the limit. So USA won 81 to Nigeria 72. It's only a 9-point win, and this is, when you think of USA basketball, you think that they're just going to kind of cruise to a gold. And I'm not sure that's going to happen this year. Nigeria, they're very difficult to play. A lot of those African countries are difficult to play because, one, they're athletic. They're incredibly aggressive. It's a fight. And, the U.S. didn't have a lot of time together leading up to this because of the WNBA and all their players. So they pulled off the win. You kind of knew they were going to pull it off. You felt it all game. But they were definitely tested, and I think you saw some weak spots, I guess maybe you could say. But I think for me, kind of the biggest story is that woman, Diana Taurasi, and Sue Bird, who was also the flag bearer at this opening ceremonies for the USA, playing in their 5th Olympics. I mean, how crazy is that? For you to be that good and be at that level for that long, it just kind of, it cements your name in women's basketball for history. So big props to those two women who have been at the top of their game for so long. There you see Sue Bird. She ended up with 13 assists. I believe that the assist record is 15 for a game. So,
wow.
We'll see in the next game if she's going to even add more more history and more records to her already amazing CV in basketball.
Uh, I mean, going over the results and scores, having watched some of the games, who do you see as favorites advancing perhaps to the semis or if not finals?
Honestly, Tom, I have no idea. And I've had so many people asking me. So basically, right now, I don't even know who's going to get out of pool play. Like this is how close this field is, and this year's Olympics, and that's a great sign. I mean, I think it also shows how basketball has progressed in other countries. You know, do I think the U.S. will advance? Absolutely. Do I think we'll see the U.S. in the finals? Yeah. Could this be the year? Maybe. And before I wouldn't have said that. So I'm saying maybe. Um, you know, Australia, you're kind of used to, I know they didn't medal in 2016, but you're used to that seeing them on the podium. Same with Spain. And maybe we're going to see some new teams. You know, I really hope Canada is one of them, but I do think that Belgium could make a run to the podium. Japan could make a run to the podium. Serbia, again, they had that, you know, historic bronze medal in Rio. There's a lot of really good teams, and that's what makes this tournament so excited. So first thing first, you have to make it out of group play, and then I think it's kind of anyone's opportunity after that, to be honest.
Well, moving on to I guess the next game, which was Korea and Spain. What was your take of this game, Korea and Spain?
Um, to be expected, I guess you could say. You know, I do think Korea, they have a couple talented players. That woman for 45 for Spain, Astu Dor, she had 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 of those were offensive. So obviously she, you know, she came ready to play to try and help Spain make it 3 Olympics in a row with a medal. Uh, so she was, you know, she was ready. We saw, I think Spain, I don't think, I know that they had a very difficult Eurobasket a little over a month ago. Um, and we might not even see them at next year's World Cup because of where they finished in the Eurobasket. So that's kind of surprising. And I think they have a lot to prove. And you know, yeah, they had a rough Eurobasket, but they're still a team who can compete and are incredibly talented. Maybe not the most talented Spain team we've seen in the last few years, but they're still talented and they're still dangerous. So as far as, you know, Spain winning, not surprised. I am surprised that they only won by 4. And again, I talked about how difficult it's going to be to get out of group play. When you win, you want to try and win by as much as you can, because I really think some of these groups, it's going to come down to, you know, points for and against and your point spread and all of those kind of calculations. So 4-point win for Spain could come back and bite them.
Well, it sure can. I mean, again, this is another country that has a very long history of professional basketball for both men and women
Yeah.
equally, and they're always been a major force, and you know, and they're always producing talent in the world women's basketball market, and so it's no surprise to me.
Yeah.
You know, like US. It's going to be very interesting as this tournament evolves and to see how and which teams advance.
Absolutely. And just so you know, for those of you who are watching and don't know, this year's format's a little different. So we have 3 groups of 4. And top 2 teams out of the group play qualify directly to the quarterfinals. And then the other 2 spots that are remaining go to the best record. So even if you don't finish top 2, in your group, it's still incredibly important to, like I said, you know, to win when you can and have it be by as many points as you can, because you know you still might have a move on to and a chance to play in the quarterfinals. So you know, it's a different format. And then, sorry, to continue on with that format. So you have the quarterfinals, and the quarterfinals is going to be a draw. You know, they're literally picking, obviously, if you finish first, you will play against a team that either finished second or that 2 third place teams. They're just picking. So we could really see some interesting, favorable matchups in the quarterfinals for certain teams compared to, some others. So that's something to keep in mind when you're watching. And, if you're wondering why a team's trying to win by as many as possible, well, that's why.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Thanks everybody who tuned in. I'm looking forward to do many more episodes like this as the tournament evolves there in Japan. Always look to follow us on our social media platforms, and thanks again for tuning in to National Teams Ball in Action with our Canadian top player, Shona Thurburn, two-time Olympian and FIBA commentator. So thanks again. I look forward to speaking to you soon.